Hello everyone and welcome back to Triggered Reds. This week we are joined by John Welsh, former Liverpool, Hull, Tranmere and Preston midfielder. John gives us some fascinating insights on what it was like training under Gerrard and Rafael Benitez. He also lifts the lid on what it was like training with players like McAllister, Gerrard and Alonso almost on a daily basis. We start this week's episode by discussing the promotion of one of John's former clubs in Hull City. So this episode runs for about an hour. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy. So it's maybe a good match. I'll definitely tune in.
Yeah.
Did you see one of your old clubs has got promoted as well today, haven't they? Back to the Championship. Hull won. They're back up, aren't they?
Yeah. I think it's a great club, Hull. I think they've got everything in place to be successful. So it makes no. It doesn't surprise me at all that the way they are now. I think the training ground to the ground is built for that. Very passionate fans around there. Obviously, it's a big rugby town, but they love the football down there and they're passionate about the sport. So I'm sure the crowds will be coming back once we're allowed, and they'll be right behind the team, which is good to see.
They're a one club city, aren't they, as well, I think?
Yeah.
It's always the focus is on them, if not the rugby as well. So
Was it Luke Campbell that was from Hull as well, a boxer?
Yeah. The boxer's been a few. Tommy Coyle, yeah. It's a big sporting town. Obviously, the rugby's massive there. They've got Hull City and Hull KR, which is a big rivalry in the rugby world. Obviously, the football with Hull. But I mean, it's pretty similar to Liverpool, as in sporting wise. They love the sport and anything they can get behind. I'm sure they've got a hockey team as well, if my memory serves me right. So they just love sport.
You never know, Steve might get a game for Hull hockey there.
Tigers, yeah.
No, they are. I was made up for them, and one of Steve's cousins plays for them at the minute. So it was. I've always got an eye on them, to be honest. Really.
Yeah, well, I do myself. I always keep an eye on former clubs, and I enjoyed being there and was quite successful there. Got promoted to the Premiership, even though I didn't play much. Broke my leg when I was there, so I've still got a lot of friends there.
Was yours just before the Phil Brown era then, or was it around when Phil Brown was there? Or?
Yeah, when he was there. I think he took over when we were in the Championship. And the season I broke my leg, I think we was promoted that season. Or it might have been the back end of that season and then going into the next season was when we got promoted to the Premier League. But it was a great time to be at the club. I think that when I signed for Hull, it was like back-to-back promotion. So they'd been from, I think it was the Conference League, League 2, League 1, and then promoted into the Championship. And then I signed at the Championship. So it was a great time to be at the club.
Yeah, I was made up to see that today,
Yeah, brilliant. Great to see.
You joined them in, was it 2005 after we won the Champions League?
Yeah,
because
it was Peter Taylor who signed me. He was the manager there. He was the England 21 manager. Yeah. So obviously I'd worked with him at 21, so he knew a bit about me. And I think we had a Toulon tournament in France. And I spoke to him while we were there, and he said, "Would you be interested in coming on loan?" And I wanted to go and play games. I hadn't played for a while. I don't think for Liverpool's first team. Obviously, I'd always wanted to play for them, and it was getting to that point where I spoke to Rafa, and he was sort of saying, "You might only get 1 or 2 games next season." So I think it was important for me career-wise to go and play some football and have a full season somewhere. And lucky enough, that was Hull, and went on to next season to play 30 odd games for them. So I was still learning. I was still young as a footballer. So going there and getting games was the right move for my career in the end.
Well, one of the things we were going to talk about was, I think, that lines up with it quite nicely. I think did you join Liverpool when you was 10? Is that right?
No, I was actually 8.
8, yeah.
I was.
Had us off against Steve.
I think because what it was at the time, they were only doing under 11s, and I come in as an 8-year-old. I think I was even younger. I might have been 7 still, but like nearly 8, if you like.
Yeah.
And I went in. It was obviously a centre of excellence there. It was down to me in Sangster.
Used to play down
and
there,
everything was run out of that. Yeah. But that's where I first started training when I was at Liverpool, and it was sort of like frowned upon because I was so young. Well, in that time, I was classed as young for the academy or centre of excellence for what it was. And later on in my career, when I was older, I found out that there was a lot of meetings going on about me, and some of the staff there didn't want me there because I was so young, and some were fighting to keep me there, basically, just to say he's a good player and whatever it was. They wanted to keep me, and then in the end, it was I think it was actually Steve Highway who didn't want me there, not because of talent wise. He just felt it was too young for lads to be there, and the scouts who scouted me, Arthur Edwards, he fought with the coaching staff to keep me there. Obviously decided to keep me there, but I had to train with the under 11s at the time. So that's probably why it says that I joined when I was 10, but just because really I was 8. Yeah. So
that's a young time to join, isn't it? Nowadays you hear about it all the time. Like, one of my cousins was like getting scouts when he was like 5 for like Man City, and you think like, what can you see at 5? But these lads have got a keen eye. But so when you joined and you were, obviously you were 8, you stayed with the club right through, and obviously you went to Hull, like you've just said.
Yeah.
What was it like, being a local lad and breaking into the team, and then as you're progressing through the age, like, you're working with Steve Highway, you're working with, I'm assuming Gerrard Houlier's team, Rafa's team, and then ultimately, you end up being one of the few Scouse local players to play in a Champions League winning campaign. Like, that's some going, that, isn't it, from the Vernon Sangster to playing in, the last season. And I remember the Vernon, the facilities weren't great, but, it was boss. But what was it, what was it like being around the first team? Were there any egos? Was it sick?
Well, going back from like the 8 to going through the academy system and all that, I just I had 2 loves in life. One was Liverpool, and one was football. That was everything I wanted to do from when I could remember. Everything I'd done, and every second I could, I had a football in my hand, kicking against the wall, playing with mates. Every opportunity I could, I had a football in the house, kicking the ball against the wall. My mum would kick off, tell me to get outside and go and play. So I'd go outside and knock for my mates. Just everything was based around football. Then the opportunity obviously come to go and play for the Centre of Excellence, or School of Excellence, I think it was. And I loved it. Playing football for a club that I loved. I couldn't think of anything better to do, really. Obviously, you start progressing then, and the older you get, it starts getting more serious. And I still had that love. I've still got it now, the love of football, and obviously for the football club that I supported since I can remember. So going into be the academies then, so we were up at Kirby, doing well, playing I think I was 17, playing in the under 18s at the time, and just loving it, playing games, putting on that Liverpool shirt. It was everything to me. I mean, that could have been first team, and I loved it. I just loved being there and being around the place. I had a great sort of upbringing in footballing wise. I think Liverpool not only made me a better footballer, but made me a better person. And I think that's what they try and implicate now. You see the lads coming through who speak really well. The likes of Trent and them kinds of people that they do an interview and they come across really well. And I think it's all credit to the academy system. The people that are there are really good. They try to improve you in all aspects of life, not only in football. So it was a great football upbringing. Not only football, but an upbringing as a young kid coming through the ranks. I can remember that the first day at Melwood being really nervous, walking into a dressing room with the likes of Michael Owen, Steve Gerrard, Jamie Carragher, a vast array of them talented players, and they're just the sort of local lads.
Yeah,
you start seeing Gary McAllister, Xabi Alonso, these type of players that as a Liverpool fan, I was struck really in awe of some of these players, and then it just begins of trying to improve first and foremost, and then you start looking to try and get into the first team. I loved being there, and again, it was a great upbringing from sort of 17 to 20 or 21 that I left. The lessons that I was taught in them years from them world-class players is stuff that stuck with me even till now.
Have you got an example? Like, is that in terms of footballing lessons?
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking back, I was really young when I first went, but I was quite old in the sort of way I wanted to go about things. I sort of, the way I trained was, I'd go in and obviously train and try and improve, but I'd be watching players like who was the best tackler, who was the best passer, who worked the hardest, who had the best diet, and I would try and sort of imply them in what I was doing. I'd go and watch Steve Gerrard passing, I'd go and watch Xabi Alonso passing. I'd try and sort of imitate what they were doing and movements they were doing. I'd go and watch Stefan Henchos, who was the best one-for-one defender that I've played with, and I'd see what he was doing and see how he adapted himself and the way he worked and moved, the timing of his tackles and stuff like that. I sort of wanted to learn. Gary McAllister, who's even though he come when he was quite old, his speed of thought was unreal, unbelievable.
I think on McAllister in Gerrard's book, he says that like Julia signed him as a 35-year-old, but it was the nous, the old head coming in at that age, and even Gerrard says he learned tons from McAllister.
Just his speed of thought was just off the charts. I remember, it sticks in my head. We done a possession it was really narrow but really long. So obviously there's a lot of bodies in the middle, and no one could get the ball off him. Yeah, he was just two or 3 yards ahead of everyone, and you're talking world-class footballers in the middle at the peak, some of them, and no one could get the ball off him. He must have done about 6 1-2s in one sort of pattern of play.
That free kick against Everton, I mean, that on its own, he's a legend, isn't he? And I think for fans like mine and Steve's age, like I've just turned 30. Steve's 30 soon enough, so he'll be. But I didn't really remember Gary McAllister as a player before he was at Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? So at Liverpool, I remember he scored in the year we won the treble. He scored a penalty past Pepe Reina, didn't he? In goal for Barcelona when we knocked them out. I think Jose Enrique had a blinder, and Gary Mack was all over him. But players that you've described there, you were a midfielder yourself, weren't you?
Yeah.
How'd you break into that midfield? Dietmar Hamann's there, Danny Murphy's there, Vladdy Smicer's there. And speaking of bringing in shrewd players that people might think are a bit over the hill, I remember watching Jari Litmanen and being like, "Oh my god! Like, how good is this player?" I think
what a footballer he was, by the way.
I think he finished third on the Ballon d'Or list one year, didn't he, Steve?
With Ajax, I think he was at in I don't know 95 it might have been, but I mean, they've had some quality like world class players, and it must have been. I mean, it's something it'll stick with you for the rest of your life. That education period you just said. 21 and then players like McAllister as well, like Pirlo or whatever, Alonso, the dictators. It's like sometimes it is the most influential position on the ball in some aspects, but they make it look so easy as well. Like, an artist with his it's crazy.
But that's where obviously the football and education come from for me, because I couldn't understand how Dietmar Hamann was so influential in midfield when physically he wasn't really big or strong. He didn't probably run around as much as most players did, but he just always seemed to have the ball at his feet and sort of dictated play or dictated the tempo. He always seemed to be an option, and he always seemed to be in space. So I'd go and watch what he was doing during possession or stuff like that, and just see what sort of the answers were to them questions. And they were the questions that I was asking about all different kinds of things. You know, I asked Steve Gerrard a couple of questions, but I tried to watch answer my own questions, and I couldn't. He was on another level at the time. But they were the type of conversation. Yeah, they were the type of conversations I was having with myself. Why is he so good at that? Why is he really good at that? Why does he do that? And obviously, that's where my education come from.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, how do you break into that team, into that midfield? I didn't. I think that's the quick answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm quite proud of the times I played and the amount of games that I played, but it was really tough. I mean, you name the three that have been mentioned already: Steve Gerrard, Alonso, Dietmar Hamann. Put them together with another 4 or 5, Gary Mack. Them types of names. I think world-class footballers at the peak would struggle to break into that team. So never mind a kid from Rovers who's just come through the ranks. So it was always tough, and I always knew that. But I'm quite proud of the amount of games that I played.
Well, you've done, being a local lad, playing, you played against Bayer Leverkusen away in the Champions League winning campaign, didn't you? And then you wasn't in the squad, was you, for the final? Is that right? Or
no. Yeah, I was in the we always had like a big squad, and then we'd have like a match day. So there'd be like a squad of, I think the Champions League would have been 24. So you go and you train, and you're a part of the build up, if you like, within the squad. And then obviously day of the game, it's there's a match day squad, which would be like 18, maybe 19. I wasn't part of the match day squad, but was in the squad for the lead up or the build up, the match preparation and stuff like that, leading up to that.
Did Rafa kind of tell the lads that weren't going to be in the match day squad that they weren't in, or was it a case like you kind of already knew in training sort of thing, or was it made formal?
Yeah, I think everything Rafa done, he was quite straight about it. We were sort of hoping, because we'd been, I think there was a couple of us, the likes of me, Neil Mellor, Darren Potter, Dave Raven, Stephen Warnock, who had all been around the squad or on the bench. I think at the time there must have been a bit of an injury crisis, because a lot of the young lads seemed to be on the bench for these big, massive games.
Yeah.
And we were sort of hoping he might keep the trend and go with that. But I think that a couple of the lads had come back from injury. I think Yosemite had come back, Biscan had come back. So these lads were obviously making the way back into the squad. So we were sort of hoping he'd go with the trend of keeping us on the bench. Obviously didn't. But we sort of half knew that was going to happen. But we're just praying that we could make it on the bench.
Yeah.
For the Champions League final would have been some achievement.
Well, I remember like watching the final, obviously, and I spoke to Steve at half time, and we were both like, young, we were both like proper upset and all the rest of it. Steve was a dithering mess.
I was like,
I always remember after the game, and for years, right, it's so random that we've managed to get you on the podcast today. Mm-hmm. But after the game, there was a picture of this lad in a Liverpool kit, and he was going mad with all the fans.
Yeah.
Me mates were like, Steve being one of them, were going, who's this like nutter who's ran on the pitch? Yeah, and I was like, John Welsh. He's Welsh. And he's with all the lads celebrating. And for about 10 years, I thought it was you. And then
it was just...
It was a lad who got on.
Yeah, just funny ran on the pitch. I even had me looking at the picture, and I was like, "Is it Welsh? I can't tell."
I was probably go mad on the pitch, because it was just. I mean, there's a great story behind it. Obviously, we were in the crowd sort of thing. So obviously, Liverpool have won, and we're getting ready to lift the trophy and stuff like that. So there must have been about 8, maybe 9 players who were in the squad who were in the stands. And we were like, we've got to get on the pitch. We've got to get on the pitch. So we make our way down to the pitch side. but it's basically we're actually in the crowd, so we're trying to get through everyone, and obviously the stadium staff and the stewards like, no one's getting on. So Fernando Morientes was in the squad sitting by us, and he just walked to the front, spoke to the steward, and he just so the steward obviously knew who he was, allowed him to go on. And I mean, Morientes could have just got on the pitch and just left it was basically all the young lads. But just as he was about to climb over the billboards, he turned round and was speaking to the steward and was pointing out which one we were. So he pointed out all the young lads and was waving us on. So the steward allowed us to come on then. So if it wasn't for Fernando Morientes, we wouldn't have got on the pitch. But I mean, I'd never forget that, because as I said, he could have just got on and I'd celebrated with the rest of the lads. But he had sort of the down-to-earthness to turn around and point all the young lads out and say which ones we were to let us on. And that's how we got on the pitch. So I'd never forget that for forever, really.
Yeah. That's definitely Morientes' greatest contribution in a Liverpool shirt, I think. He was some player, weren't he? But
another one. He brought Raul to Melwood one day, so we met Raul and that. I mean, he's a legend in football as well. So that was
imagine the press there with Raul at Anfield. You would have thought he was about to sign, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I know. Well, I think it was probably that hush. I don't think anyone's probably ever knew, because I mean, we didn't know. Well, we've been training, and obviously when you finish training, you go up to the kitchen area to get your food and stuff. And we just walked in, he was there, and we going, "What's going on? Is he signing?" Or we were talking amongst us, "Are we signing him or what?" And then obviously, Fernando come in and they were embracing, and then all the lads come up, and obviously the Spanish lads were talking to him, and we were like, "Should we go over and get a picture with him?" We can't go over because we were Liverpool players. Like, we can't go over. We can go over and like introduce and say, "How do you do?" and all that. But I don't think anyone ever got any pictures with him, which was a shame.
Yeah. So after you'd left then and gone to Hull, obviously, and then after that it was Tranmere. You come back. Was it? And that was, how long were you there? Was that 4 years? Was it? Or
I spent a couple of years there. Obviously, I'd had a bad injury at Hull. It broke my leg. I think I was out for about 2 seasons. I think I was out for about 13 months, and then there was a couple of loan spells that didn't go too well. Trying to get back fit, and obviously Hull weren't renewing my contract, so I thought the best thing to do was to come home. Obviously, I'd lived at Hull for a couple of years. Tranmere were interested, but they wanted to see me fitness, because obviously I'd been injured. So went there pre-season, done about 10 days. And it was John Barnes who was the manager, with Jason McAteer as assistant. And after 10 days, they knew I was fit, and ended up signing a deal there.
Were they League One aware at the time, or I can't remember if were the
they were League One, League One at the time. But I mean, I loved my time at Tranmere. It was there was ups and downs, and I think probably the greatest achievement we had there was staying up on the last day, which doesn't sound much of an achievement, but the relief and the jubilation after it was unbelievable.
Yeah, well, especially in them league, 46 game campaigns as well. Because that's another thing I was gonna ask you, because you play for Tranmere and Preston, and I'm wondering what's that like on the body. The schedule of a 46 game year is. How do you manage that in terms of physical fitness?
It's tough. It is tough. I mean, 2 games a week takes a lot on your body. I mean, probably more often than not, when you get into your late 30s, so 32 onwards, you're probably going to struggle to do that unless you're really fit. But you've got to be at your peak. I think they call it now a 24-hour footballer, and I think the term they mean by that is you've got to eat well, sleep well, rest well, recover well. Everything's got to be spot on. And obviously, the higher up you are, it'll be more catered for you. But I think the more you come down in the league, so i.e. League One, League Two, you've got to basically do it yourself. So it depends how strict you want to be. Some players are strict, some players are not. But when you're playing that many games a season, you'd be stupid not to. obviously, I think every footballer will probably sit here and say they want to play as high as they can. And if you wasn't a strict footballer or 24-hour footballer like I've just mentioned, you wouldn't last long in any of the top 2 leagues.
Yeah, bloody hell. Because I was playing today, like I haven't played for a while, and just the first 10 minutes just took it off. I was like, shit, yeah. I remember what it was like. We had a friendly, like our old teams. 2 of them got together for a reunion, and 10 minutes in, I'd hit the wall already.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's so because even some, I think bank holidays, you play like Saturday and then you're playing again Monday. So you'd have like sort of one rest day and you're back playing. And I remember we played when I was at Preston. I think we had a home game. I can't remember who it was against. And then the Monday we had Crew. And I thought, I'm not going to play it because we had quite a few midfielders. And I thought, I'm not going to play them Monday. And obviously the team come out and I was playing and I thought, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
Sort of had them doubts in me. But obviously got through the game. We ended up winning 1-0 and actually I played quite well. So to get the 90 minutes on Saturday and then 90 minutes on Monday, it's really tough on the body. But I think from being a footballer and working under certain managers, I realised how much the body can cope with, especially in them sort of in that environment. As I said, being a sort of professional footballer, there's a lot of recovery and a lot of stuff I've done for you. But as I said, it's some days the older you get, the arm knees when you wake up in the morning and the back goes and stuff like that. So it's best of both worlds.
Just on Preston.
I'll probably have it tomorrow.
So you've got it now, Steve. Just on Preston. Ben Davies, who signed from Preston, do you know of him? What do you make of that signing? And he was omitted from the squad again today, and he is fit. So it's what's the situation with that one? Have you got any inside knowledge you can give us an exclusive on, or what?
No, I played with Ben for quite a few years at Preston. When he first, obviously, he come through the ranks of Preston, and when he reached the first team, he was a slender lad, quite sort of within himself, wasn't as confident, and he went out on loan. He was told that he played 2 games at left back, and his last game, I think he gave away a pen and possibly struggled. He did struggle. Obviously, got sent out on loan and was told to sort of get stronger, basically. And when he come back, he was a man mountain. He had gone taller and wider, and he was like a bit of a Rolls Royce sort of build. And he just seemed to get better and better from that season on. He was he's quick, he's good on the ball, he's brave. So I mean, I haven't played with him now for 3 years, I think, maybe 4. And whenever I've seen him on the games, he was one of the best players, one of the best defenders. I think if he'd still been at Preston now, he'd have been captain somewhere along the line. So I mean, it was no shock to me that he was going to make the move to the Premier League. It was a massive shock, obviously, when he took the big leap that he has. I thought it might have been sort of a middle to lower, maybe Premier League team would have took a gamble on him, because I think last season he was probably one of the best defenders in the Championship, or definitely in the conversation for it. So I mean, Premier League football seemed the next step for him, but I don't think I would have seen him going to the league champions, if I'm honest.
He was Celtic, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think Celtic were pretty close on signing him. And then obviously, speaking to Ben, once he heard Liverpool was interested, it was sort of all guns going for them, really, which is understandable. But yeah, I mean, it's a strange one. I mean, I think he's geared to be a defender for Liverpool now. You've got to be quick, which he is. You've got to be good on the ball, which he is. He reads the game well. So I think he has got attributes that would suit Liverpool. Obviously, it hasn't worked out as much as he probably would have wanted at this present time. But I think when you look back at the sort of Klopp signings, I don't think some of them do. but I think the majority of them don't instantly make a big impact in coming into the team. I think when you look at Andy Robinson, I think it took about 8 months for him to break into the team.
Yeah, and Fabinho as well was quite a
Fabinho struggled a bit. Yeah. So I think maybe it's just a sort of way Klopp works. I know his training regime's pretty gruesome. I've heard rumours of obviously the demand he puts on players, and so I wouldn't be too concerned if I was Ben. I mean, it's easy for me sitting here, but if he's in the squad or he hasn't been in the squad, it's probably tough for him because he's used to playing week in, week out. But I mean, I wouldn't be too concerned. I have no doubt that he's getting better as a footballer day by day. He'll be listening to what's being said to him and the advice that's being given to him, and he will improve. But it's I think for him it's going to be tough now because obviously you've got the likes of Van Dijk coming back and Gomez coming back.
Kanate apparently is on the line, isn't it?
Yeah. So
come in as well. Sorry, just when it was an awkward time in the fixture list.
Yeah,
so it wasn't the best time for him to join. Sort of like an emergency, sometimes in an emergency loan situation. So it was a bit. We were relying on that Reece Williams, weren't we? And then you had the Champions League games, and I think a few crunch games in the Premier League. So the fixture, it's never easy in the Prem, obviously, but I reckon we might see him possibly when say we don't get top 4 or we do, and there's like 2 games left. Surely then you'd like to think he'd get a run out just to see what he can do without the pressure of having to actually win points. But
yeah, I think so. But it's same again. I mean, he could give him till the end of the season to see how he does. And training, obviously, he's watching him day in, day out, so he'll have his sort of opinions and decisions that he'll make. But pre-season, I mean, Van Dijk and Gomez are coming back from pretty serious injuries, so they're going to be going right through the summer. As I said, I've heard rumours that Klopp's pretty gruesome with his workload, if you like. So if he comes back pre-season fit and ready and does well, I'm sure that there will be the conversation of him getting games.
He's big on it. Sorry to interrupt you there. Klopp's big on it. He loves a full pre-season, doesn't he? And you always hear him talking about full pre-season games all the time. As you said yourself, it's not just about the get minutes on the pitch; it's the minutes off the pitch and learning about the club and getting your education. And when Virgil van Dijk's fit, I'm sure he's picking Virgil's brains now, just about how he can improve his game and everything else. And with the injuries, to Matip and Phillips has had a couple of knocks as well, hasn't he? He's in a good position, but I just thought I'd throw that one in there because you've probably in a better position than anybody else to answer it. But looking at the midfield, which we discussed before, and me and Steve are constantly saying now, I mean, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but in terms of football quality, especially in Britain, I feel like the quality's gone backwards. Like when you were trying to break into that midfield, look at the competition you had to break into. But if you're coming into the midfield now, you might have a far better chance. And what do you think of the way players play now in midfield? Because it's all about he's a 10 or he's a 6 or he's an 8.
Yeah.
If you look at the midfield back in when you were at the club, you'd have players like Gerrard, Vieira, Scholes. They did absolutely everything, didn't they? And now, like the game's so much about tactics. And I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on that now.
Yeah, I'd completely agree. I think probably back then they probably didn't have the money that's being spent now, so they probably only needed 2 or 3 midfielders maybe to play all the time. I think when you look at the more successful teams at that time, I can only really remember Petit, Vieira, maybe Parla. There's not many names that jump out at me, and then obviously going on to the United team, Roy Keane, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes. That were the mainstay where they were going to be playing week in, week out. Whereas I think now that you've got like 6 or 7 midfielders that could play at any time. And as you said before, them type of midfielders that I've just mentioned could do everything. They could run, they could tackle, they could pass, they could score. I think we get sort of all clouded up with the sort of he can't play with him because he hasn't got the attributes to play with him. Instead of putting it like he's a midfielder, he can run with the ball. So we'll put someone in who's more defensive, and constantly trying to balance it. But if you put like Vieira and Petit together, put them in the same team, you'd win a lot of games just through them two alone, because what they could do. So I think, as you said, the tactical thing is like, well, he's a ball carrier, so we'll oppose him with someone who can do something that he can't, and I think we get a bit jiggled up in sort of tactical madness, if you like, instead of just playing. He's playing this week and he'll keep in the team until we get beat, or like it used to be.
Yeah,
it was always
you're playing for your shirt, aren't you, every week?
Yeah,
and now it's like you watch Monday Night Football, apart from last week where it was just like a scene from a film. But when you're watching it, it's like you need like a letter from Stephen Orkin to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, I love tactical analysis as much as the next guy, but I think sometimes you try and make football into a game that it's not. It's football. Your best 11 men are going to win the game, aren't they? And me and Steve were commenting a few weeks ago on English centre-backs as well, because if you go back to when you were playing for Liverpool, look at the centre-backs that were in England. If you look at them now, I mean, John Stones and Harry Maguire, they've clearly got ability, but you've also got massive mistakes. And, you look at the backs we used to have. I do think the quality has dipped a little bit. I don't know what it is really, but I definitely think that it has.
We were touching on it, like me and Dave, like just thinking of theories why it has, and it does seem the last 15 years, I'd say, it's all off the ball, tactically orientated, more specifically condensing space in the game. And it seems like the consequence to that, there's not as many technical players as there once was. So like, our team now, Liverpool's, it's all about energy, and like the players you played with at Liverpool, that rivals Milan with Seedorf, Pirlo, and all that. And across Europe, though, the last 15 years, there's just a lot of emphasis on space reduction in the game, and Klopp as well, a pioneer of it, counter pressing. I just find it has had a consequence from a fan, where now we are seeing less technically gifted players. It just seems that way to me. I don't know how you think about that. If it's...
I'd agree. I mean, I believe football go into trends. I think obviously you look at the Barcelona sort of era, if you like, where they were the best team on the planet, and it was all about passing, pass until you find the gap, or the team make a mistake positionally, and then you punish them. I think now it's going into sort of the counter pressing, if you like, high energy teams who keep a high line, as you said, condense space, win the ball high up the pitch and score. I think we've probably seen another change now. I think sort of City now are trying to bring sort of the old Barcelona way back, but are trying to mix a sort of high press with it, keep it high up the pitch, and win it high up there. So I think there seems to be like a lot of trends and a lot of it's a lot of team sort of based tactics. I think back in the day, obviously a lot of more technical ability players. Now it's sort of, this is my 11 and this is how we want to play. We're going to win high up the pitch. We want energy in the middle. I think centre-halves get strung out a little bit at the minute because fullbacks are wingers. Fullbacks are wingers. And I think from me watching Liverpool, I think if you look sort of at it becomes a back two in a way. It's 2 for 2 sometimes. I think to play for Liverpool now, you've got to be good man for man marker in sort of dangerous areas, if you like, because you will get left 1v1 at the back at times, the way that Liverpool want to play. I think centre-halves get left out to dry a little bit, but as I said, that's the way the team want to play. Klopp wants his team to play with that. I think probably when you watch other teams, I'm sure that's the same with them.
No,
definitely interesting. I was just going to ask.
Seems the end thing now, doesn't it?
Sorry, what was that, John?
It just seems the end thing now of what teams want to do. They want to push the fullbacks high up the pitch. sort of play a front three or front four of really narrow forwards and sort of create overloads in the wide areas for fullbacks, and it leaves you short at the back. But I guess if you're looking at like Man City and teams like that, it's not often they give the ball away.
It's risk reward, isn't it? And
we
were the same earlier in the season with that high line, and the worst that could ever be was that Villa game, the 7-2. You know, that was the epitome of the risk v reward of a high line, and we got for it, like so.
Yeah,
that was
when it works, it's like it's really good and stuff like that. But obviously, like you say, it's the trends and things like that, and what and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know with tactics, and obviously you've come through under who was the first team managers while you were coming through? Did you do Evans, Houllier, and Rafa?
It was just Houllier and Benitez.
Yeah,
was one. Yeah.
What was the did they have any similarities? Because you hear a lot. Obviously, God rest him, Houlier's recently passed, and you know there's been people eulogising about him. You know, Gerrard and Carragher obviously come through similar age as yourself.
Yeah,
they've been saying, you know, what a great man-to-man manager he was, and obviously that was always seen as being more cold and more pragmatic. But your experience, did he have any similarities, or were they totally different in their approach?
I think they were pretty different, but equally successful. I think football is a weird sport. You get different types of personalities or managers that you'll come across. I mean, Gerard Houllier was a great man manager. He was sort of keep your players happy and they'll win games for you sort of manager, I thought. He would always speak to you. He would always ask how you were doing. Just a great man to be around.
Yeah.
Rafa was slightly different. He was, I wouldn't say so much cold, but he was quite. I don't know what the word would be. Quite.
Was he more standoffish?
Yeah, he'd be more direct. Gerrard would come and asking how you was and what you think you should be doing and stuff like that. Whereas Rafa would tell you what you should be doing and instruct you what he expected of you. And as I said, both managers are not wrong. That's just the different ways they managed. They're both equally successful. But Rafa Benitez his tactical knowledge and tactical detail was off the charts. I'm actually pretty angry with myself when I look back at my time there that I didn't take more in from him. But being a young player, you don't envisage yourself getting older really. So I wish I'd have been probably a bit more older in me thinking at the time of playing under Rafa Benitez just to take in his tactical detail that he put on. The meetings that we were in, I can remember bits of it, but I wish I'd have been a bit older now just to remember some of the things that was being said, because his detail, I mean, from patterns of movements that players would do. I remember them doing a tactical knowledge. I'm sure it was Gareth Bale at the time, but I'm not 100% sure. And he knew everything about him. He knew his movements, his patterns, certain body shapes that he used would take him in a direction. Just everything from the smallest details. He'd always pick up on their strongest player and would go through the positions he picked up. What was his favourite pass, if you like. So if he got the ball and his first pass was to a forward, they'd say, in this position, this is what he's going to do. He's going to get it and pass there and run there more often than not. And he'd have like clips so you'd actually see it for yourself. His tactical knowledge was brilliant, and trying to do things to counteract what they would wanted to do, and it was just brilliant. I remember really being in awe of it. I should say, and as I said, I wish I'd have been a bit more older at the time, thought-wise, to take more of it in, rather than just sitting in the meeting and watching a player movement, really thinking about it and going into depth of why he was showing us it.
Yeah, it's a brilliant insight, that, and it's things like that that, you know, as like, you know, the everyday fan, you don't realise. But does it surprise you now to see Stevie G in management and you know what he's done with Rangers? Did he have a have an inkling of that at the club, would you have said? Because I know he's brought in really experienced coaches under him, hasn't he, with Gary Mack and the rest of the staff. But I didn't see him going into management like that.
Yeah, I didn't, to be honest. Obviously, spending a bit of time with Stevie at Liverpool, he always demanded or commanded respect. He was always someone that people looked up to, and he was always a leader. So them type of qualities, obviously, are why he's been so successful in management. If anything, I would have thought Carragher would have been the one who would have gone into management for his knowledge, and he's a footballer man every day. He'd be talking about football or something to do with football. A great organiser, as you can hear probably when you're watching the game. You can hear him constantly talking. Always had a point of view of what he wanted to say in meetings and stuff like that. And I think Stevie, even though he was quite opinionated, he was quite sort of quiet with it. I'd probably say, obviously, I think most people next to Carragher seem quite quiet. But he always seemed to be a sort of cool, calm and collected person. But as I said, he always commanded respect. He had an aura about him around the place. His leadership qualities of obviously there to be seen. So I wouldn't have expected him to go right into management straight away, but he has, and he's been really successful with it. So it's no surprise really going off them attributes that he's shown as a player.
Yeah. You do get a feel for that, like with his aura there, just in his interviews. Like every interview he's had, it just seems to be very calculated, but in a really intelligent way. Like everything, he's never looked daft ever in an interview.
Well, it's like John said before, Steve. Sorry to come in over here, but he said it before about the players, that the local lads that come through the academy. He said, like Trent, Jones, Carra, Stevie. They're all so articulate and how they put across the points, aren't they? And like you say with Gerrard, that aura's just there. And I mean, as much as we love him in Liverpool, I'd hazard the guess to say the Rangers fans love him just as much now.
I think he's
it's like up there. It's partisan, isn't it?
Yeah. He'll be probably a bigger legend there than he will be here, I'd probably say, for the things that he's done.
He's probably fated to come to Liverpool as a manager now, you'd say, wouldn't you, at some point? But who knows?
You'd expect it, yeah. I think he probably. I think he has said himself it's a bit too early for him.
Definitely.
But I mean, it was a risk going there. If I'm honest, as a footballing person, I felt it was second was never going to be good enough for them. So I thought it was a bit of a risk. But I mean, he's excelled there and brought the club to where they expected to be, and done it really quickly, and I don't think many would have expected him to do it as quick as he's done it. I don't think.
No, I definitely didn't. And he's made some really shrewd signings with the wingers as well. Kent, is Hadji a winger as well? Does he play on the?
I think he's like a 10, isn't he? After 10.
The players like that, and then the player he's turned Tavernier into as well. So pivotal for them.
Yeah.
I suppose that's the sign of a good manager, isn't it? Not so much who they come in and what they do with an existing players as well.
Yeah. I think most of the signings that he's brought in have made an instant impact as well, which again is a sign of a good manager. The recruitment seems to be good. I think I would expect the type of character he is, he would have a big say on who comes in and is quite controlling of what goes on within the club, I'd imagine. So I mean, he's took on a lot, and I mean, as I said, the success he's had there, as quick as he's had it, tells you all you need to know about the type of manager that he is, which is a really good one.
Yeah, I think Steve was going to touch on something to do with coaching with yourself. I think.
Are you going into coaching, are you, John, or?
I'm
about it.
I'm currently working at the Robbie Fowler Education Academy, which is obviously an academy for 16 to 18-year-olds where the lads come in. They do a course in sort of based around sport, so they'll be doing a sports and nutrition or a PT course. So they'll be doing that, but on the other side, they'll be doing a footballing sort of education where they'll come in and train. We've got sort of We've got sort of, I think there's 6 teams there at the minute, like first team down to 6. The lads will train it each morning, and I'm really enjoying it, loving it at the minute, getting to coach sort of 17, 18, 19-year-old lads who are really good. The staff are all brilliant down there, and really enjoying me coaching at the minute.
Are you doing your badges? Are you planning on taking a bit further?
Yeah, well, I've done my UEFA B about 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So got that done. I was gonna do my A straight away, but with me going into a sort of college environment, I've put that on hold. I'm gonna try and do my youth modules, which is sort of your youth sort of players, which is like 6 youth players. I'll probably be like 10 to 16. So I'll do them. And then I'm going to try and get into my teaching license so I can do a bit of both, whereas at the minute I can only obviously do the footballing side. I want to so I can do the sort of education as well as the football. So that seems the more proper step for me to take next, I think.
What was the UEFA B like? Because I've dabbled in a little bit of coaching. I used to work for Everton for a bit, despite being a massive red light. Had to wear the tracking every day. But pays the bills, doesn't it? But I only got the level, FA level 1, which is a doddle. But so my mates had done the UEFA B. We're looking at the A. And I thought, I think, is the pro license still by invite only, or can anybody go for the pro license?
Yeah, I think you've got to be a manager. There is a certain criteria that you've got to be to actually get on the pro license. But yeah, I mean, I love the UEFA B. I done it through the pandemic, which was a bit of a shame. But lucky enough, I done all my practical work before that, and I had to do my theory work through Zoom and stuff like that. So it was more based around culture and philosophies and how you want your coaching philosophy to be, how you want your culture within the dressing room. So it was more based around that sort of area of football. We've done the coaching bit before that, and obviously the theory work is based around that. But it's really interesting when you get into it about philosophies and culture of football clubs and culture of a squad of players, and it's really interesting. It's a great sort of discussion we used to have.
Oh, it's brilliant, and obviously working with Fowler as well, like another legend of the club, isn't it? So
yeah,
I think the question we wanted to kind of end it on with you today. Like, again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
you're the first footballer that we've reached out to come on. Essentially, we've asked one of your old colleagues to come on. Steve's been talking to him, haven't you, Steve? It's Ian.
Yeah, we've had some dialogue with Ian Hume. Like, he seems like a nice.
Okay. Yeah, he sounded me.
Yeah. We'll message him in a bit then and say, well, she said you'll have to come on now. So
yeah, I'll message him and try and get it sorted for you. But he's a great lad. He's had a great career. I mean, he's been kind of Canadian international, being up and down the country, Preston, Leicester. Had a great career over in India. He's massive in India, absolutely massive in India.
He's got a lot of followers, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, well, that's from his time in India. Yeah, they love the football out there, and I think when he went there, that's when I started sort of watching their leagues. Obviously, Robbie Fowler's managed over there, so it's getting better and better. But they are absolutely fanatical. He sent me a video, and you see the coaches coming into Anfield, and there's say 2,000 or 3,000 outside the ground. They're the exact same. The exact same. There's like 8,000-10,000 outside watching the coach, and they walk alongside the coach, and the fireworks are going off, and there's flares. They're absolutely fanatical about the football out there.
No, it's brilliant. But yeah, just kind of the question we wanted to end it on was, just for you, who's the best footballer you've ever played with or against, and why would you say that?
It's an easy question, really. With Steven Gerrard, in my opinion, I think there was a period just when Zidane was on the decline, where I think he had the best 2 years I've seen, where I think he was probably one of the best footballers in the world. Probably, in my opinion, was the best footballer in the world. Could do everything you could ever want in a footballer: head, run, score, pass, tackle, organised, lead, everything you'd ever want. And if you could put the complete footballer together, I think you'd be close to him. I'd probably say.
No, I think.
But against, I probably have to say Thierry Henry. I come on for Liverpool in a game at Anfield against Arsenal, and I think 2 or 3 times it was just like a blur flying past me. There's one time where I think it sort of everything went in slow motion. I thought I've got him here. I'm going to try and nick this ball off him, and he 2 steps he was gone. So I'll probably say he was probably one of the best. I think just as all round, even him, his aura, his spatial awareness, his speed, his physical ability, just everything about him was brilliant. But it's an easy one for Witt. Steven Gerrard, head and shoulders above everyone I've ever seen.
You can't get probably a better 2 in the Prem than that, really, can you? It's absolutely top notch. But no, we appreciate it, mate. Thanks very much for your time. And
no worries.
It's a big help for us just starting out. So no, we're
anytime. Whenever you want me back on, if you want me back on, just give me a shout. Just give us a shout, and no worries, I'll come on and have a chat with you.
All the best with the coaching, mate, as well.
All right, nice one, lads. Appreciate
later,
that.
Mate. Bye-bye.
See you later, lads. See you, bye.
Ta-ra, mate.
Ta-ra.
There are always a couple of people who can tell you, but you didn't win. So now, let's talk about 6, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be.